My roots are proof that even barren seasons can still be fruitful if you notice. So I'm harvesting everything I believed in. When everyone around me told me no, don't let the pain you go through be the reason.
Sheepdog Roundtable number 3. We are about to get started here. We're going to go through it. We're having one of our members is a little behind. His camera decided to update right at the last minute, so we're going to manage him once he gets in here, and we're going to push on with what we got. So first off, as you know, I am Chance Burles. We're going to go through the list and introduce each other and so that we all know who we're talking to. Let's start with Nick. Give me who are you, what do you do, and all that good stuff.
So I'm Nick. I'm originally from Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. You know, good old East Coaster. I'm a recce guy from the Dragoons. I'm actually going to be retiring at the end of March, and I'm also the my own company, Call Sign 6 Brewing. So that's kind of my shtick, and that's who I am. Wicked.
So no gravy for you guys out east?
No gravy. No.
No gravy? Okay.
It's all donairs.
Okay. Chris, you're up next. Hit me.
Hey, I'm Chris. Brain just locked up. Sorry.
Who am I again?
Yes. Mental health ambassador for Mad Hatter Industries. Student of the School of Honey Badger. And just all-around good guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Pretty solid dude. Cole, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Cole. I'm the host of OPSEX We Got Your Six podcast, ex-artillery. I did a stint as a private contractor overseas, and now I'm in my retirement job, which is the Air Force.
Ooh, what do you do in the Air Force?
AVN Tech.
Nice. Oh, Tim, we can't hear you at all. There's no audio for Tim. Dang. There we go. There we go. We got a hua. That's all we needed. Toby, you're up next. What do you got?
Well, I'm Toby. I'm a former signaler. Did 15 years. The last 6 were with CSOR. 3 deployments to Afghanistan, a little time in Northwest Africa playing, and got myself wounded in 2011. So I've been retired since about 2016 or so, and literally retired. Like, ride a Harley Davidson and hang out on podcasts.
Wicked. That's a good time. Grant, you're up next.
Alrighty, my name is Grant. I was with the 3PPCLI. Seems like a lifetime ago now. Went overseas to Afghanistan in 2004, attached to recce that time. Now I'm currently a corrections officer. I've been doing that for 13 years, and I also ramrod the Honey Badger Alliance brand, and I do use that term to describe it because mine is very rammy and uncompromising in my approach to mental health. That's just the way I've learned things and learned to maneuver my own way through life, and so I just want to take the lessons that I learned and share them with everybody else.
Wicked. And Tim, you're up next.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we're good to go.
All right. I'm Tim, nicknamed Gunny. I'm an ex and retired Patricia, 2 Commando member, Skyhawks, and also the Loyal Edmonton Regiment. And after retirement, I joined the Alberta Sheriffs. I was on the exec protection team for the Premiers of Alberta. I had 5 premiers under my charge and 3 lieutenant governors. Now I'm fully retired, living in Comox and just skydiving and hanging out with the family.
Wicked. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to get right into the conversation. Well, in a minute or two, I'm going to, hold the viewers' attention for a few minutes here first. But what we're going to get into today is we're going to talk about tradition. So I want us to talk about, the benefits of it, the detractors of it. There are certain things that we do that, doesn't really make sense, or why these things are happening, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to get your each person's perspective on I guess really, do you think they're more harm than good? Do you think they're more good than harm to have a very traditional background versus, so like, I'm thinking the military, right? You have some units that are a little bit more wishy-washy, like the Hollywood PPCLI guys walking around with their hands in their pockets and their friggin' Oakleys on, right? And then you got the hardcore, never pass a fault friggin' RCRs that are enjoying chickens a little too much. And yeah, and all the ones in between there. But what do you guys think? Where do you guys side? Do you think it's better to have a bit more traditional versus non-traditional? Do you think, who wants to go first?
I'll just
Tradition's always been, a huge thing in the military, and I mean, down to why is a parade square and you don't walk on it kind of stuff, right? Like that's all based off of traditions from our history and from past sacrifices, etc. So I think that in the military you have, I mean, I wore this patch in Afghanistan based on traditions from the First Special Service Force, right? That CSOR then carried on, and I think the traditions are incredible. Can be. We also engage in some traditions that really probably are not healthy for us as a segment of society, and certainly can lead to poor behavior as we try to reintegrate into being civilians afterward, right? Specifically, of course, alcohol and some of the addictions that can come on just based off of, guys, units doing smokers regularly or forced fun and beer calls and etc. So there's an upside, of course, to traditions in that I think that they're an absolutely important thing. But they're also got some downside possibles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to jump on that?
Yeah, I'm just going to speak kind of a little more broadly on the subject. Yes and no. Traditions are good, and they're also not great, like what Toby was saying there, too. The biggest thing I take away from traditions when I think about them, too, because I followed a few other paths as well now up to here, and they're really good to have that familiarity of structure. Like if you know something's coming, or if you know you got something coming up for the next couple of days, and it's going to be, this is what the expectation is. It kind of takes some of the some of the anxiety off. If you're like, you got a lot of stuff on your plate, or you're dealing with something, knowing what's coming next is very good, because as the last couple of years have shown, uncertainty is a giant killer of morale and everything else. So I mean, there's that aspect of it as well. But sometimes, again, like what Toby was saying, sometimes we have to really look at what we're doing as well, and is this still functional or practical for the times or where we are now? Just kind of broadly looking at it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anybody else?
I think it all depends on the unit and the regiment itself. Like, us as dragoons, like we have a lot of pride in our traditions of, especially around, the first week of November when we do Lily Fontaine, where we won 3 Victoria Crosses, and that's usually, you got parade practice, and like, as Grant was saying, like at least that's coming up, and that's a big part of the tradition of, and it's instilling that into the new guys, of learning the history of the regiment. You got the parade, you got the big parade on the Saturday usually, but then you got the sports days where it's squadron versus squadron. That's usually when you see the guys, and the shit talking starts.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it's bringing back that us as Recce Squadron, we were there, like, chirping the shit out of everybody else and just causing pure shenanigans, right? But then, and that was a big thing, but, and I think that was a good part, because it kind of did bring in the morale, but, sometimes they can go a little bit, the opposite way, and then, you're like, why the fuck are we doing this? Like, why? Like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go back to the 21st century here, not, to the 1800s.
Yes. That is always a kink. And there's also lots of that where you sit and question, like, why are we being made to do this on top of everything? Like, this whole concept seems dull, but why are we being forced into it on top of, like, everyone hates it? Why are we forcing everybody to do it? Anybody else?
Well,
Chris or Cole?
I think tradition is still important today. Like, a couple weeks back, I was at one of the reserve units, and I still walked around the Sergeant Major's Parade Square. I'm not going to just up and walk through it, because you just don't do that. With tradition, you learn things like respect, or even just like your unit traditions. Like, why does a rifle regiment have drums instead of flags? Different thing. You learn different traditions from your different units and why things are done. And as long as, like, it's the same way the rest of you guys have been saying, is as long as it's done in a healthy manner, I don't think there's anything wrong with tradition.
Makes sense. Cole?
See, going from the artillery to the Air Force, where the artillery was heavy in tradition, from St. Barbara's Day to blessing the guns to our parades and all that, right? To going to the Air Force, where they don't carry a lot of traditions. They, end of day work, poof, everybody's gone. Nobody hangs out with each other. And it's not their fault. It's just that they treat it like a job, right? Like, not as a lifestyle. So it was really hard for me to integrate into the Air Force, because I was used to, I'd work with these guys all week, but then Friday night, my section would come over to my house, we'd drink, we'd have fun, it'd be a great time to, everybody just doing their own thing and not really getting along, but working together, right? And it felt like, to me, it felt like these guys were missing out on a huge part of the military life. And then it felt like I left a huge part of who I was when I switched over.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tim, you want to round us off?
Yeah. So when you think tradition, you got to think back, not just the 1800s and now. Traditions defined us today. I mean, the way the army is organized the way the Roman legion did. Our mugging out from the mess, that's a German tradition from the 1600s that we've adopted. So all these things define us and define our different regiments. Traditions are, as you say, yeah, you could have a bad one, but I think they're using the smoker as a not a great one, because how did we used to decompress back in the fighting wars in the 1400s, 1600s? By the campfire. And that's what a smoker is. Essentially, it's a campfire setting, right? To get people to talk. So there's a lot of positives out of that as well. But tradition is what defines us. Everything, I was in two new regiments, Airborne Regiment 68 and 1914 with the Patricias. And then, with Seesaw just forming, they have their own new traditions with the Tomahawk and things like that. So it's important, it defines us, and it's a must.
Yeah. I agree that it's required. And, I mean, this leads into one of my first points here, is that I think the biggest point on tradition is the fact that it's our connection to history. Right? It allows us to reach back and grab that little piece from years ago. One of my biggest things, I love drill. And I'm just going to do one little quick thing here. I'm going to mute the guy. Can you guys mute your mics when you're not talking, just so that we don't have any background noise? That would be great. And I will do the same when I'm not talking too, but that won't be very much. But so I was going to say, I'm a big fan of drill, right? The moment I stepped foot on the drill square in basic training, I was like, yes, I fucking love this. Now, of course, I was the marker, being a big tall guy, and I always had to carry the flag and all this stuff. So there was, I looked at it as a responsibility to maintain the cohesion of the unit, because that is very important, because I knew a lot about history, and where drill came from was fighting as a unit, right? You're looking at the Roman legions marching around with shields, with swords up, being able to call out drill commands on the field of battle during all this stuff happening, right? And so I look at that as like, this is a great tradition to uphold. But on the same side of that, it's also not taking into account for the fact that we don't actually march in formation anymore, right? We're not lining up three abreast to walk into a pitched battle across an open field and putting muskets on our shoulders and, front line down, middle line kneeling, first line, like, we're not doing that anymore. So there's a level of disconnect between marching around a parade square and combat because it's not the same thing. However, again, this is all just my own thoughts on it, was that we need to be able to evolve, right? And tradition typically does not. So how do we create evolution with tradition? That's the question. Who wants to jump on it?
I think that, one of my favorite words with tradition when we're talking about history, like Tim was talking about, is touchstone, right? So a lot of our traditions are a touchstone to your unit, to your regiment. It is a way for you to reach back and feel where your regiment came from, what your regiment or your unit has done, the history of your trade, as Cole was saying and Tim was saying about the smokers, right? It's maintaining camaraderie and unit cohesion and things like that. Those are all touchstones. The issue we run into is that we are in a world where I have a wife who served 15 years. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan. She's not combat arms minded. She's not like us, So as much as sometimes you can hear the cries of inclusivity and go, "Oh God, give me a break," the fact of the matter is we have a different military now than we had in Korea, World War One, all the way down the line since we became a nation. And so we have to figure out, how to make those traditions acceptable to everybody without losing that touchstone, because that's what's absolutely vital to morale, I think, within a unit. I not to harp on it, but this carries a lot of weight in CANSOF and in USSF because of the tradition. It's because of the history, right? It's not about, you wear that as a point of pride, as a reminder, so how do we keep those traditions alive and yet make them inclusive to everybody, or so that they're not harmful to anybody? One of the ways that I think we should work on, perhaps with forced fun and smokers and things like that, is preparing for the fact that less of the Army it's going to be less of a drinking society maybe than it used to be, because as we bring younger kids in now, less of them are going to be drinkers probably. It's just the way society seems to be going, So those sorts of things are things that we can do to, not me anymore, obviously, but that the military can be doing to foster still keeping those traditions alive for young guys and girls that are coming in, without having any of it be toxic or whatever the word for the buzzword is now, right?
Yeah. Chris, you want to jump in? Or you had a point? Nate, we got you.
Going to say that for post-service, with guys like yourself and the Walk for Veterans, Tim's Operation Pegasus Jump, by creating new traditions, new ways to connect, we can still foster those relationships and make new traditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a big thing, what Cole was saying, come Friday, in the Air Force, you go, okay, see you later, Bob, and you're gone, right? Like, I know back at regiment, we'd always go to the Coriano and Pet, and you'd have beers at the mess, right? And that's where you would sit and you'd get to know the new guys. Or if you're a recce squadron, the sergeant major would, Friday afternoon, all right, boys, fucking 2 beers. Go to the SQ shop, grab your 2 beers, sign, do your little sign, and then Sergeant Major would be there talking to the new guys. Here, hey, welcome to the regiment type deal, and it was good. Of course, we'd have a little bit of fun, fish fights, which is grappling, right? But we never made it like compulsory. Like if a guy didn't want to fight, okay, cool, right? Like we never hold it against the guy, but it would be more like a, hey, like you'd still have a guy there, coaching you as you go along, right? But in the end, like it was just, just to kind of get to know the guys, like, like especially after a big exercise, like, have a few beers, toss them back, go to the mess, and just have a little bit of fun. And I think, unfortunately, like as Toby was saying, like you're going to start seeing a lot less guys going to the mess. Like I was part of the mess committee here in Gagetown, and we were seeing less and less dues because well, why am I paying for the mess dues? Well, I don't use the mess. Well, QR knows you have to use a mess, right? You have to be a part of it.
Yeah. So. Sorry, go ahead, Cole.
Oh, I want to jump in there.
Yeah.
Kind of touching on both what Nick and Toby were saying. One of the things that I found when I got to Comox was when I started inviting the young guys out, they loved it. They wanted to do that stuff. They came to the mess with me. I got in charge of our canteen, and I held parties. And a lot of them made the point that people were canceling these traditions and almost blaming them. Oh, the young guys don't do this. The young guys don't do that. But nobody actually ever asked them if they wanted to. They just took it away. They said, well, we're not a drinking society anymore. It's wrong. And these young guys, they want to hang out. Some of them do. But our leadership made the decision that it was no longer acceptable, and they didn't even get a choice to even try or even get to see that part of the lifestyle.
Yeah, that's a tough call when you have leadership that steps in instead of like an evolution. Before we go any farther, Nate, can you hear us? Because I think I can hear you. I don't think he can hear us. He's probably texting me right now. Gotta love comms issues. I love it. This is just great.
Don't blame the SIG.
Man, we got an engineer running this thing. You think I know what I'm doing?
I was just going to jump on the Siggy thing.
Hey, I was the six guy for my troop and my squadron, so don't look at me. I just went, no, it's bricks. Toss it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what you're saying, Cole, is there's that old German line, that which is not forbidden is compulsory, that which is not compulsory is forbidden. And the Army, the military as a whole, has a tendency to sort of have that thought process, so, well, if it's not compulsory to go to the mess, then we're just going to stop doing it. Or you have to go to the mess.
Toby, you're absolutely correct. So mess dinners in the Air Force aren't mandatory, and you have to pay for them. You have to pay for your plate. So nobody goes, other than
no doubt.
senior NCOs and warrants who just want to go there. And I'm like, you know what? I would rather be ordered to go, show up in your uniform, even though we sucked. We all complained about being lined up for that dinner. But, man, I have such great stories, having to piss in a bottle because they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom or something like that. But these guys,
I stole the gavel.
Right? Or stealing people's name tags, stuff like that, screwing with people. These young guys don't want to do it because, for one, they're not forced to do it, which I guess is okay. But then they have to pay to go. And it's like, well, I'm not paying, $40 to go eat mess food.
Yeah. That, and it's, I think the biggest challenge is the fact that we have, these guys keep jumping in and out of here, and it's tripping me out. Listen to my train of thought. And to your point, Toby, as you were saying earlier in the chat, was I am now medicated, so my my attention span is not great. Anyway, the key, I think, at least for myself, talking from the engineer regiment, we never got told our traditions. Our traditions just kind of happened to you, and either you accepted them or you didn't. So I remember sitting in a mess dinner for like men's Christmas dinner or whatever, and I remember sitting there at the table, and you're like, okay, you know, brand new private, and you're looking around everywhere. And Nate, can you hear us yet? Still no? He's looking really confused every time he shows up. Well, that is... Yeah, go for it, Nick.
Yeah, sorry, no, just talking about Christmas, I think that was like the biggest thing was like, because, you know, Regimental Silly Week. That was like, yeah, exactly. Regimental Silly Week, especially at Regiment, was, you know, we had like our last big fall exercise, and then, you know, we had Lily Fontaine. You knew that you were starting to go down. You know, we kicked RCR's ass, you know, doing whatever else. And then, you know, that last week right before Christmas, you know, guys would literally be there in the shacks. Like, I remember my first time at Regiment, you know, I had a house, and I get a phone call and few text messages like, where the fuck are you? And I'm like, did I miss a fucking timing? Like, what the hell is going on? And now all of a sudden I'm getting like 4 dudes knocking on my door at my house, and they're like, hey, you got to come with us. And I was like, what the fuck going on? Meanwhile, they're like, we're drinking. I was like, what do you mean you're drinking? They're like, we're drinking in the shacks. It's like, well, okay, give me like 5 minutes. Let me go get dressed first. And, you know, like, I'm in my pajamas, like, how, you guys have still been drinking? Like, who's been driving? Like, oh, he's our DD. Well, okay, well, give me a second here. And I get to the shacks, and all of a sudden there's guys that are legitimately, they're doing mop bucket jousting. I was trying to figure the word there. But they're doing mop bucket jousting, and I'm like, and meanwhile, there's guys with cases of beer, like, oh, let me just go get, you know, the guys got all their mob boxes and their barrack boxes, and they have them open, and they're just, you know, just pick a beer, have one. I'm like, oh, okay. Meanwhile, there's like, you know, 40s of you know, whiskey and rum and everything else in between. And I was like, oh, okay. Meanwhile, I'm a corporal. I have a house. I'm everything. You know, but like, that was like the big thing was, you know, right before the Christmas dinner, right? And then before that was we had the sports day, you know, your trooper corporals versus the master corporals. And that was where if you had a bone to pick, you dropped the fucking mitts and you were allowed to fight. I got into a fight with one of the officers. I was like, you know what, man? Like, let's just drop the mitts. You're being an idiot. Let's just drop them.
Mm-hmm.
Sergeant Major was just like, have at her.
The other side to that, though, you have to be careful because some guys, and I've watched it happen, guys go to at CSOR, we used to go to the Sergeants and Warrants mess Friday night, have drinks. There were guys that don't. And it wasn't their thing. They don't drink. It wasn't their environment that they wanted to be in. And I've watched guys pay for it on the career path, right? So the traditions are outstanding, and especially if they're historical to the unit, like you're engaging in history of the unit, and as that touchstone. But if there's career ramifications to not being part of it, that always becomes to me an issue. I at the time I was now I'm a Heineken 0.0 guy, but I was happily pounding back vodka and soda at the time, and I would go to the mess, not a big deal. But I knew guys that wouldn't, and it cost them in the long run because they didn't care to engage, you know.
And that goes with the smoking pit too, right?
Yes.
How many guys would be out there hanging out with the Sergeant Major smoking? So to touch back on what you're saying there, Nick, is Broomaloo. Big Patricia event. I remember standing there one time. I had the Sergeant Major by the back of the throat, and I'm standing on the Colonel's chest so that way my fire team partner can take the ball and go score the thing. They both got up. Nobody chased me or whatever, but they both came at me the next play and took me out at the knees, right? Because that's what it was. But as soon as that game was over, it was done. And like Toby's saying, that drinking on Friday night, that's not a tradition. That's a clique that is very detrimental. And people are like, oh, well, it's, we're drinking at the mess. I got burned by guys that were drinking together because I realized that they were planning courses, and guys were like, well, I can actually do better than Nate on this course. They fucking couldn't. But they were saying it, and they were getting all, their liquid courage, and they started doing that.
Yeah.
That's not tradition. That's bullshit. And if you're a leader and you're allowing that to happen, you're a shitty leader. I'll say that right now. Because you're taking away from the integrity of yourself and your troops.
You got a mic you can drop? Like just fucking boom. Shitty leader. Bang.
There's just
there you go.
just one thing
it's true. There's guys that were smokers and like, hey, this guy's getting PLQ, this guy's getting this course, this guy's getting this course. I'm like, how the fuck are these guys getting courses? Oh, they're in the smoke shack with the sergeant major and whoever else. I was like, oh, that must be fucking
or you
nice.
play hockey, you play on the hockey
or
team,
you play
sergeant
hockey,
major,
yeah.
or you play fucking whatever, right?
I've watched guys get pulled into the field, and
now
they never came back.
Here's the thing with that, Grant. We'll get to you in 1 second here, Grant. I was just going to add a point to that, is that a lot of that has to do with the fact that it is that's who you see, right? So if the sergeant major sees this guy regularly, he plays hockey with him regularly, he's out in the smoke pit with him regularly, and then they're all like, oh, we got 2 spots open up, and he's in the office, and they're like, well, it's for a private, and he's like, oh, I know Private fucking Wilkins, whatever, he's Private Bloggins, he'll fill that spot. Just because it's in his memory, right? It's that guy.
There's sometimes advantages to being the loudest guy in the room. That's how I made sergeant.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I got my PLQ. Was I was actually handing the RSM an intelligence briefing. I was like, "Here you go, RSM," and he was talking to somebody else, and the sergeant was like, "Hey, I got 3 guys for that PLQ that's coming up," and I was like, "Hey, Sergeant Major, should we have everybody on that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think we should have every swinging dick on that thing," and I was like, "So, am I gonna get on that?" And he was like, Let me talk to the NH. Yeah, absolutely. Of the RSM? Come on now. Yeah.
Well, it's the same mindset as, and I know we're going to go to Grant there real quick, is it's that girl that's always in your face until closing time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's 100% it, Grant. Let's jump on that.
Okay, so that's not where I was going to go with this or whatever, but anyways, I'm just listening to that. Nate has a lot of very relatable stories there, and I was actually having quite a hoot at him. Now, that's what I wanted to go with, too. It's important to have these traditions because they serve you later in life. Like, I can tell you right now, like, I've been, the majority of my adult life, I've been in corrections, but I still talk to the boys that I serve with about the stupidest shit that we have done. And, like, some of that's what you were saying is very familiar. But those are the things you can always look back on and laugh about, even when you're older, and especially, like I said, when you're kind of if you're in a shittier spot or whatever, you reach out to one of your boys and you start talking about, hey, you remember when we did this, or we smashed all this, whatever, or, just whatever it happens to be. But you always have those things. I even tell the young fellas I work with now, I'm like, listen, go out and safely, responsibly do as many stupid things as you can that you're going to laugh about, because it'll pay you dividends later in life. So it's not just for mental health in the immediate term; it's for down the road too. Like, we got to live life. You got to have fun, and sometimes that's what it is. You just got to fucking cut loose and have some fun.
Then to echo on that is when I'm working with the Americans or anybody else, other countries right now, contracting and stuff. I play a lot of Call of Duty, so that's all it is. So when we are rolling together, that's what we talk about when we're done. When we're hanging out at the end of the day, is those traditions that we have, because we want to find out each other's traditions. We don't talk about how badass this was or how bad this was. We just talk about the stupid traditions and jokes and stupid shit that we've all gone through. And that is why those traditions, it kills me, and it irks me to see people that don't understand them, officers who take them out of the NCO world. And it's like, stop telling me how to write a PER if you haven't written or read the PER picture book, because it's the same thing with traditions. Don't tell me how to do the traditions or what they mean if you have not participated in them.
I think that's hilarious, because at one point I had Nate, there's a bit of a background noise. Can I get you guys to mute when you're not talking, if that would be okay?
My dad.
I should be. I mean, really. No, anyway, so the biggest thing that I remember handing in a memo to a warrant, right? And I think I was a corporal at that point in time. I'd written a few memos. I'd handed them off for many warrants, right? And I had just finished my PLQ 1 to 5, so I had the PAM, right, of how to write a memo. And I handed it to the warrant, and he's like, no, this is wrong. I was like, okay. It's written as per the PAM. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, here's the PAM. And he's like, no, I want it written like this. And he gave me a template of what he liked. And I was like, okay, cool. And I started writing memos like that. And then I had a new wart. I wrote it like that. And he was like, nope, this is wrong. And I'm like, okay. And I looked at him. I'm like, how do you want your memos written? He's like, I want it written according to PAM. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went back, wrote it according to PAM because I still had it, handed it to him. Nope, this is wrong. Do it again. And I'm like, okay, cool. Right. Thanks. So I talked to somebody else and got a memo from them that he's already accepted and used that format. And they're all very similar, but it's like where the indent is and stuff like that. You guys remember what it's like to hand in memos. It's ridiculous. But as you were saying, Nate, is that there are some people that just, like, they don't want to deal with the thing that they're not engaged in, right? So you have, sometimes officers or senior NCOs that want to shut down stuff that's happening at a lower level because they don't get to play, right? Now, if I don't get to play, nobody else can play. That's just not okay. And also, it's a lot of removing things because they're old. And that's the only reason, right? And so that is my next point, is that, even if you go into the tack shed at my ranch at my family's ranch down south, you will find lots of tools in there. All those tools will have rust on them. Every single one of those tools is going to be sharp as fucking hell, though, because they're used, right? And that little bit of age, that little bit of patina, that little bit of rust on the outside, it looks shitty, sure. Just like sometimes, boots that flake off in the snow look shitty, but they still fucking work, right? Like, you can still walk around the snow.
The
you can still
CQ
use
never
the tool.
took that excuse
It's still
about my
sharp.
C8, though, when I tried to hand it in.
Well, I think that's because the CQ hates you.
Well,
That's all. Did you put the 20 in the in the magwell like you're supposed to, right?
Sort of what Nate was saying, though, like working with the Americans, when you do, that's one of the cool things about traditions, right? Is, I've been fortunate. I've worked with CanSoft. We did a lot of D-Fate D stuff back when it was D-Fate D. Training Belizeans, training Jamaicans, training Nigerians, Malians, and you get to learn their traditions, and they get to learn ours. But you spend a lot of time, cooking iguana over a pit in the back behind the shacks in Belize, talking about, the ridiculous things that your military does, or and that's not even just, it's not just the great traditions. Sometimes it's the crappy traditions. You wouldn't believe the crap, the brigade sergeant major makes everybody hike 35 kilometers once a year in the winter, that kind of stuff. But you have shared pain and shared histories and shared, and that creates unit or team cohesion. When I was wounded, I was with a USSF team combined with CSOR, and we really were a fairly tight group between all of us, just because we had shared sort of histories. It's another upside to traditions.
Absolutely.
And
so how do we? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, but like what Toby was saying, and Nate, like working with Americans, and like we went down to Fort Drum, New York, with 371 on one exercise, and for them, they were like so enamored with our vehicles because they had come up to Pet a few weeks prior for an exercise in the summer, and then we went down for this massive, like 10th Armor or 10th Mountain Division exercise, Mountain Peak or whatever it is that they call it down there, and they had all these guys that were never seen a lav or whatever have you. These guys are just light infantry guys, and I actually got a coin from one of their command sergeant majors because I was able to spew off some of our traditions in the Canadian Forces and like some of our military history. And they thought it was like this coolest thing ever. They're like, who taught you this? Like, how did you know? Like, it's just what we do. It's what we know. Like, give a guy a Canadian $20 bill. What's on it? Vimy Ridge. Tell the story about Vimy Ridge. And like, this guy is like, but it was just like, do you guys not learn this shit? Like, but that was just their thing, was like traditions. They knew nothing about their own, but they loved ours. They loved it.
I think that has to do with the divisions, because I know for a fact that a lot of the really storied divisions, like the Big Red One, like the 101st, like the fucking the Green Berets, they have these huge long histories of fucking, this is all the shit we did, right? But the U.S. really likes to stand up units and then disband units, and then stand up units and then disband units. So you have a lot of like, where are these guys? Now we're not. Now we're these guys. We used to be these guys, but now we're these. No, now we're not. Okay, now we're the. And it's just so like each time there's a conflict, they're all like, I'm now in the 123rd Division, 76th pair. Like it doesn't really make sense.
They lose continuity.
In terms of the story, yeah, they lose continuity. That's what I'm looking for. I think that's the issue, unless you go to one of those units, because I've talked to some guys from the 101st, and they're like, they're like talking to a 3 VP sergeant major, right? They know every instance that these guys were involved in, and all the stories. Or if you go to CFSME and you talk to any one of the instructors and the engineer school, we can tell you every Victoria Cross the engineers have ever won. It's always for some stupid, crazy reason. And just as a side note, this was one of my favorite stories of an engineer. He was an officer. He went to Rekia Bridge, and he ended up taking the town by himself against a company of Germans during World War II. And that, like, he went to Rekia Bridge with a private. The private got shot. The officer takes over the whole town. There was a lot more to it, but it was one of those things where you're like, fucking engineers, right? Just every time. So the next thing I really wanted to get into is like alcohol. Okay, one of the biggest detractors from traditional events, let's put it, like smokers, like being able to have rum in the field, or like the rum rations and things like that. They come from long storied histories of the British, and they used to do these things, blah, 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 as far back as you want to go. Back to a point when alcohol was cleaner than the water that you would drink, right? So you would drink mead or ale or whatever because water would get you sick. But now we have a succinct problem with alcoholism throughout militaries basically everywhere. Okay, you got a point, Nate? I saw that.
Yeah.
Before I even get the question out, dude.
Oh, sorry.
There was almost a knife hand there. I was like, whoa.
Show me alcoholism for 400 points.
Yeah.
So when it comes to alcoholism, it was something that was rewarded for a while. That if you didn't have a DUI, you didn't learn how to be responsible enough because you didn't do defaulters and you hadn't, had your mettle tested. We went from peacekeeping to peacemaking to war fighting. So when we look back at the peacekeeping phase, all they had was drinking because they were so stressed they couldn't shoot back at anybody. ROEs were trash. Peacemaking, we could start to defend ourselves. Alcoholism started to change. We started to be more athletic and more robust in that like mindset of I can actually throw some punches here and stuff and defend myself, so I need to be ready for it, as opposed to just being this wall standing there. Then we get into the war fighting and you're like, holy shit. I just did all this, this, and this, and this, and now I'm going to drink my face off for a couple days so I can level down, gear back down to level, or first gear, and go home and actually be around my family to compartmentalize what I just did. So that whole thing, now we don't have a war. We're going to take away those traditions and sports days and activities. Another caveat. Hockey players, bless your hearts. You're cute. You're great. You go out and play for 30 seconds. You're amazing. I love you. I've spent many, many minutes in the penalty box, but you're pussies. Biathlon. That is a real military sport because you're skiing your bag off. You're stopping for brief minutes to take a shot at a few targets, and then you're skiing off again wearing nothing but the finest, thinnest spandex out there, okay? And I know, there's pictures of me on the internet. You can Google that shit. I got a nice little package on me. So, We drank beer at the end of our races after 20 kilometers, but one beer after 20 kilometers and minus 20 fucking temperature in spandex is one beer, and you're done until the next day's race. Hockey players, like I said, bless your little hearts, you're cute, you're on some little skates, you got some good wheels on you, it's all good. But when we talk about how they take those sports programs away, which were traditions, big traditions, we now don't have an outlet for our troops. And I am so apologetic if this offends you, but I'm not. So the aspect of telling your troops to sit around and wait because you don't know what you're going to do with them used to kill me. I remember one troop's words to me is like, I joined the Army to sit on stairs and play on my fucking cell phone for 8 hours a day. If that's what they're doing for 8 hours a fucking day, what the hell are they doing with that energy when they get home? Getting into shit. And if you're leadership who says, oh, these troops, I don't know why they're behaving like this. Why don't they just man up and be more professional? I'm sorry, you're sitting behind a desk doing some computer work, busy work for the sergeant major or for the fucking major or whatever, looking all like you've got something to do, and you run around with your clipboard, but your troops are dying. It's like having a working dog that you leave on a mat, a trained killing working dog that's on a mat that only gets to play when you have an inkling of doing it. I pissed off a lot of people in my career, and the reason I pissed them off is because I was not scared of my troops, I was not scared to embrace training them, and I was not scared to spend fucking time with them. 2010, this is a legit conversation. Gentlemen, I appreciate your patience with me. I don't get out much. So, we're in British Columbia for this cool thing called the Olympics. We're in the Provincial Training Center for the RCMP. I've got 150 troops that are under me for security stuff and everything. Plus, I've got my own troops that I get my hands on at the end of the day. I find out that we have access to a training facility for sim. Oh, yes. It's like paintball with guns. So, Sergeant Major said, hey, how come nobody's using this? I said, I'll use it, Sergeant Major. For 7 nights in a row, I used it. And you know what happened? My troops loved life. They were enjoying it. They were bragging about it in the mess hall. I had 2 other sergeants come up to me. Why the fuck are you embarrassing us? Pardon? Why are you doing this? Now my troops want to do it. Now I have to do it. I'm like, well, just send your troops over with me. No, because Sergeant Major's watching, and I was drinking with him, and, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I went to my troops. Hand on heart. How's the camera? This is my right hand. Hand on heart. I said, troops, tell everybody you hate this. Tell everybody that I'm a dick, that you don't like the training, and it's useless. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, because everybody's getting jealous. We then leave BC. My troops are ecstatic. We broke a bunch of 9mm pistols because we were shooting so fucking much, okay? The RCMP were watching the videos. I didn't realize that there was cameras in the place. And they saw what we were doing. And they were like, hey, this is pretty cool. You want to do it with our guys? I'm like, no, fuck, you guys are cops. So, I'm just kidding. Okay? I gave him some donuts. We became friends. So, or would I say jerry cans now? Anyways, I digress. So, we go back to the battalion. We're in Gagetown again. And one of this other sergeants is like, oh man, troops these days are so lazy, nobody's motivated, nobody wants to do anything, you can't get volunteers. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, the troops are just so unmotivated. I said, dude, I bet you're full of shit. I bet I can get 7 volunteers without even fucking asking really and just say I need volunteers. And he's like, bullshit, you can't. I said, okay, you go first, go to the troops, just say 7 volunteers. See how many volunteers you'll get. So he's like, oh, fine. They'll respect my rank. I'm a sergeant. They'll do what I say. Goes out. Okay, troops, I need volunteers. Now, this is the whole company, okay? So, of course, they're like, oh, no, I have to ask my warrants. I have to get my permission. I'm not your troop, blah, blah, blah. So he comes back and he goes, see, fucking troops, no energy, no want, no whatever. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I waited 30 minutes, come around the corner. Because I'm not scared of the troops, and because I told my guys not to sit around and keep them busy and everything, all the other troops are seeing this. It's a little thing I like to call leadership and inspiration.
What?
It's radical. It's radical. I walked out and I said, I need, boom. As soon as I said I need, hands were up. Because There was leadership there, and I didn't fuck around and play games.
Yeah.
I'm not the best leader in the world, but I understand some things that used to be called the 10 principles of leadership. I think there's 12 or 50 of them now because some officer decided to break them up and make them into more.
You got to add more every time, right? Every single time the iteration,
Leading
there's
change.
more rules.
Leading change.
Yes.
But that's what it is
Leading change.
leading change for no reason. So with that being said, that's why we need that stuff. That's why we need that energy, because the troops fucking eat that shit right up.
Yeah.
And when you get mad at your troops because the alcoholism is rising, take a look at your leadership. Are you using those fucking dogs of war to be dogs of war? Are you taking them out for a run? Are you using them properly? Or are you just making them do PT in the morning where they have to run 7 kilometers as fast as their platoon commander can and then go sit around for the next 6 hours drinking energy drinks and just being ready to go and then having nowhere to go?
Yeah, I remember that very well as a young sapper, going for a run, going for whatever, and then that like first thing in the morning you do your PT, you come back and they're like, "Hey boys, wait down on the bay," and you sit there
1 RCR locker
all
watch.
fucking day, right? And it's brutal. It erodes the ability for you to actually want to work, right? And there's that old trope, right? What is the two things soldiers hate? Change and the way things are, because it's just the way it is. But Chris, you've been real quiet because I want to know, in the first responder world, EMT world, same thing with you, Grant. I'm going to ask you specifically, is alcohol as prevalent, and are the challenges similar? Like, do we have overindulgence consistently, or is it like as a group, or is it more individual?
Well,
Chris, you go ahead.
we'll go back to end of first week EMT school. We're all sitting in BPs with our schooners and our textbooks going, "Oh, we're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do this." Okay, cool. We're not doing that. But we were there as a class, as a team. We were there together. And throughout the first responder world, I know there would be a shitty call, and as soon as everybody was off shift, it was like, okay, go grab a case of beer, go sit and talk or hang out, listen to some tunes, maybe throw some meat on the barbecue. We were there and we would decompress with each other, like have your smoker, and that was my part of it. And as life went on and things grew, yeah, alcohol is very much prevalent, and it's bad at times. There are too many people. Just like in the military, the first responder world is losing too many people to PTS, alcohol. Yeah, it's bad, and that again comes from lack of or poor leadership. When you've got a lot of our EMS units out here are privately run. So you got the guy that did it 20 years ago that's cutting the check, but he's not up to what the current standards for mental health are or how to check on your people, which is very cool for me right now because as a sales guy, I'm talking to agency X or members of an agency and going, how's it going, or what's going on, or, you know, back in the day, we didn't talk like this. It's cool that I can be a part of the solution, I guess, or do my part to try and help the first responder community doing what I do now, and just having those tough discussions. Or, yeah.
I think it sounds like the same,
why we're here, right?
sort of issue for them that can happen with the military is when you utilize alcohol as a decompression and a camaraderie building or like that it can fall into the position then that is the path that people take for self-medication. When they are in pain and when they are hurt, they go to what you know, right? You go back to mama. And if mama is a can of beer or a bottle of vodka, then that's where you go, and that's what you do. And I think that likely happens throughout all of this high stress worlds, whether it's the military or first responders, contractors, any of that stuff. It's instinctual to us because we use the alcohol as a bonding tool and a building tool, a team building tool. But where's the edge of that tool? When does it cease to be a tool, and when does it become an issue, right? And when you put a guy out on
100%.
his own and he's no longer in the tribe, I mean, you're still part of the society, but you're not in your tribe anymore, and you're on your own. Do you take that alcohol out with you and make it your crutch or your medication? I mean, Grant, do you find that would be the same with
So listening to you talk, it kind of helped reframe it in a way for me too, in a way I haven't thought of before. So what you're talking about, whenever you're going out with your peers at the end of a shift and then you're also drinking, it's a very bad wiring of the brain, because you're associating a good response, which is social connection, with also the liquor. So then, and this happened to me, and I'll kind of go into this story a little bit here, but whenever I first started working where I am now, I was like, hey, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to party like we used to do in the infantry. No, people don't like drinking. People don't like being headbutted. People don't like trying to, when you go try and start fights with them, because I was like, okay, this is just what we always do. And what didn't happen. So anyways, to lead back to what I just mentioned, why that's important was, so I kind of started withdrawing a little bit from that group, because I'm like, okay, this is just not going to work, and I can't help myself, and I'm too young and stupid here still. But I would still drink on my own because, like I said, it still brought back the memories of that camaraderie. So, yes, that is very fucking dangerous to associate those two. And it only kind of clicked after you said that right there. I was like, oh, man, that is, like, super dangerous. Now, to that effect as well, and to what you were saying there a while ago as well, we can make some new traditions. I can tell you now, and now where I'm sitting at, we do a lot more healthier things. A lot of us are into jiu-jitsu. A lot of us are into fitness, and a lot of people are into more of that. And it still builds the camaraderie. Some people are on sports teams, and we're all pushing each other, because now there's that healthy competitive aspect. And the thing is, nobody in no leadership position did that. It's just a couple of us. We took it upon ourselves, and we're just like, hey, we want to do this, and we created it, and that's pretty much what it was. And then, from that, a lot of very positive things happened. Just like all these little veteran advocacy groups here that, 3 years ago, none of us knew each other. Could you imagine someone sitting 3 years ago telling you you're going to have all this, you're going to know all these people, and you're going to help this many people out, and it's like, no, that would blow, you know what I mean? But here we are, and we created all of our own things, and we came together. So it's pretty cool to see that. There's something else too I wanted to touch on. I can't remember right now, so I'll just turn the floor back over to whoever until I can think about it. But sorry, that's the other thing I want to touch on. Yes, I remember now. On the other end of things, though, with the mental health stuff, I cannot speak for any other sites, but I know our site, they had some new people that took on the CISM, which is Critical Incident Stress Management. And I can tell you, those people that are doing it now are doing a fucking phenomenal job. Like, my hat's off to you guys if you guys are watching this. Before, again, it was like the old way where someone come along, hey, are you doing okay? And of course, what's the answer? Yeah, I'm fucking fine, right? Now they don't do it like that. Now they'll take, so say, for example, if all 7 of us here were involved in an incident, they would take all 7 of us, they would pull us out, they would pull us somewhere out, like off the line or wherever, and we would just sit there and we could all talk about it, but it's within just the group that experienced it. So I think that's really helpful. They're starting to do things like that, which whenever I started there, that wasn't a thing, but it's becoming more and more common now. So, there's good traditions that can be created as well, and it's just taking your information and using it. But as far as the other ones I mentioned as well, traditions are, everyone wants to belong to something, right? Why do people want to join the engineers? Why do people want to people join the infantry? Because there's all these different rites of passage that you have to go through, and you have to prove your mettle, and that's another reason why those traditions are very important, because you identify with those types of struggles you're willing to take on, then you buy into that regiment's history, and then you in turn get a chance to contribute your own piece to the overall bigger picture of things.
Yeah, that's a great point. Cole, you wanted to add something in there? I saw you tried to jump on a second ago, but
kind of lost my train of thought there. Grant, that was awesome. Touching on what Nate was saying with poor leadership killing the troops, that was one of the things that really drove the final nail in the coffin for me for the artillery. Was I had nothing to do with my troops. They didn't give me anything. They said, hey, how about this? get them to go sweep the back and clean it all up. And I'm like, okay, done. They're like, take them for a rucksack march through the mud. Okay, now make them walk back through there where you just swept. So tomorrow you have somewhere to clean. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. There's gotta be something we can do. They're like, there's nothing. They're like, we have no money to go out to the field, so just do this. And then, you know what? If they don't make a mess, we'll move lockers tomorrow. And I was like, all right. Like, this is enough. Like, I can't look my guys in the eyes and be like, this is what your day is going to be. It's going to be cleaning, then making a mess, and then moving lockers. That you know. So.
For the next 5 fucking years.
Yeah,
I'm firmly
exactly.
convinced
It's
that
like
a big chunk of Seesawer's morale being better than everybody else's in pet was budget. The fact that you could go to a range almost any day of the week, that you could go fire sim, that they had their own little CQB setups, they could sim at each other all day long. You could pull guys in from outside to do, dynamic first aid training or combat casualty care training. Like there was a huge training budget, and because they were always busy and we were always doing something, they were happy, whereas you'd see, and when you don't have something to do, they tell you to go to the damn gym. Go make yourself a better dog for the fight. Go to the gym. Don't sit here and stare at your locker. That's ridiculous.
We got specifically told we weren't allowed to go to the gym during working hours because we were supposed to be working.
Oh, fuck.
Like,
Yes, you're seen as dog fucking.
Yeah.
You're going to the gym to be a healthy, fit machine, but if you're there during the day, you're a
Yeah.
a piece of shit. You're from the war effort.
Well, that's like us.
exactly.
We have like at the squadron here at the school, in our trooper corporal bay, we actually have a whole gym. Like we set aside money for a gym. So I've tried to get our guys to fucking do like map and compass. I've tried to teach the guys map and compass. I've tried to teach these new guys how to do like recce stuff because that's what we were supposed to do. And I had this whole I put this whole program set up. Like we're gonna do map and compass. We're gonna teach the guys how to do a point recce. We're gonna do all this, and then they're like, "Oh, that sounds great. Cool. We'll implement that. Like that sounds like a great idea." And then all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we don't have enough people to do that. Oh, we need these vehicles ready. So go do a monthly on these vehicles."
Yeah, you're at a school. Nobody wants to learn.
Yeah.
No. So here's what I'm going to tell you.
Do their job. Come on now.
When we talk about budgets, fucking bullshit. Okay. So, truthful points. I convinced the military to give me $15,000 to take myself and 5 of my athletes, because biathlon's better than hockey, and we raced over in Austria and Germany for 18 fucking days. Okay. The unit originally said no. But then they realized that it wasn't coming out of their budget because it was coming from an Ottawa budget. Then they told me that we couldn't have a really nice unit at gym. But then I said, well, listen, PSP has a budget every year to upgrade unit gyms.
Yeah.
Then there's extra ammo allotted for recreational marksmanship programs. There's so much stuff available, but nobody wants to put their name onto it. Nobody wants to go out of their lane. Nobody wants to break the tradition of being a shitty, uninspirational leader.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, is the tradition that the Canadian Forces is having right now. I love my Canadian Forces. I get people, before you email me at chances, sheepdog, we have gripes.com at Gmail. Listen to what I have to say next. I regularly, daily recommend to people when they call me or contact me or email me or carrier pigeon me about how to get into the Canadian Forces and what to expect and how to be a soldier and what things to look for. The one biggest piece of information that I ever got as a young private was, if you can't change it today, remember that when you're in that position of authority, to make the fucking change. And that is what is missing right now. I have seen some shitty leaders. I have seen some fantastic leaders. And I have taken from the shitty leaders and said, I will never fucking do
But
that.
you see, that's
I will
tradition in
never-
the Canadian Forces, right?
That's
I was
it.
miserable when I was a corporal, so when you're a corporal, I'm going to make you miserable. That's a new tradition. That one,
And that's
that
so
one, and
wrong.
white space. Can't have white space, but we won't
Exactly.
do anything fun in the white space. Instead, we're going to go pull
So
toboggans.
Right? So I pissed off so many people in my career because they were uninspirational and they did not want to change. My troops, other troops, everybody, I tried to be, because it was my turn. It was my time. I loved soldiering. I love grabbing guns, a group of guys, and fucking off and doing bad, cool guy shit. If you don't like that, don't get in the forces. One of the many, obviously, things that pissed me off was these guys that hadn't deployed to Afghanistan, had privates and corporals that had been over already 2 or 3 times, and they would tell them that they didn't know how to soldier and that they were poor soldiers and they were this and this. And I'm like, they've got more ticks under their belt in their first tour than you've got in the 5 tours you did in Cyprus 20 fucking years ago. Okay? Which brings me to my caveat of this whole thing. Nobody should be a 33 years of service sergeant in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Yeah.
If you finally make it to the rank of sergeant after 33 fucking years of service, good for you. Now get the fuck out of the way.
God gunning
Off the
dinosaurs.
system.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of the way. If you're a warrant officer and you've been hanging on because your wife has a list of things to do and you only have 2 hairs on your nuts because she's got the rest of them, get the fuck out of the way.
We should make this the Nate show because he is just like
the Nate rants.
the Nate
That would
rants. Here we
be
go.
it.
He's
That
just
is
giving
good.
it-
I would subscribe to that
Hey,
shit.
you just started.
Yeah, I love it.
You just gotta start
Or,
God gunning the dinosaurs. That's what you gotta do. Just grab that God gun from.
Because you're out of date, you're uncoherent, you're senile in your approach, and if you can't find it in your soul as a fucking warrior in the amazing Canadian Armed Forces to inspire those young troops who are desperately trying to emulate this fucking root of epicness and to take the legacy that you're trying to leave behind, then you need to go. You need to go because you are done. When I was medically released, I knew in my heart of hearts that there was no way I could keep up with those troops and soldiers anymore. And I did not want to be detrimental to my beloved Canadian Armed Forces and to those troops. I wanted them to see me go out on a positive note so that they would continue to soldier on in a holistic, amazing, animalistic, and aggressive way. And if you are sitting there and you take pleasure in fucking with troops that are sitting there because you like that, like you said, Toby, that tradition of, well, when I was a corporal, I had to paint 17 rocks and I had to make toast for the sergeant major without jerking off on it. Get out of the way.
Yeah, that it's. I think the major issue is that, we were talking about at the beginning is you have modern times, modern solutions. We need to change things, and leading change is a fucking PER point. Like, come on now. Like, seriously, right? It's ridiculous. And the sad part is that we have traditions for a reason. They are there to teach something. Unfortunately, as we've all noticed, is that there is a generational lag. Right? You have people from back in the day, that remember the decade of darkness in the 80s and 90s and no one had any money and we have to control the budget. Oh my God, we don't have any money. That in the middle of Afghanistan, when everyone had shit tons of money, we were still penny pinching and we were still, we can't do that, or we can't do that. And, I spent a little time in RHQ at 1CR when I was in the int cell, and I got to see the other side of the house as a corporal, which was, junior corporal when I was in that position, and I got to see, the separation of command and file, right? You have your whole command suite with all of the offices and all the sergeants and warrants and stuff. They're all in their offices on their computers, and they're fucking, I gotta get this PDR out because everybody needs to have these every fucking 3 months because, yeah. And then you have the boys sitting down in the bay staring at the cages again, like, And I think the solution in all of this is actually to go to ancient solutions. Ancient times, ancient solutions. We had when your units were yours, right? If you were a captain in a certain regiment, well, guess what? The money that they got paid came from you. You were like they're yours, nobody else's. Now you are subordinate to your higher chain of command, obviously, blah blah blah, blah, but they're still your troops. So you obviously care about said troops. And unfortunately, we have right now this mantra of movement, right? I need to have, you look at an LT, a brand new LT shows up the unit, and how many checks does he have to get, right, before he can get moved to the next command or the next rank or the next fucking course or the next position or blah, blah, blah. He's got to fill, platoon commander, and then he's got to be able to be in the op cell, and then he's got to be up in the fucking whatever, and then he's got to work with another unit, and he's got to go over here and blah, 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 blah. So you have these young officers that show up to the unit, and they're just like, okay, now you're these guys. 2 weeks later, okay, now you're over here. Okay, now you're over here, and because the CO really likes you, you're going to go over here, and then we're going to pair you with a warrant, and you're going to get shipped off to fucking somewhere else. And you're like, well, how the fuck is he supposed to give a shit about anybody?
Yeah, you have to create buy-in on behalf of the leadership, right? And when you run into somebody who actually has buy-in, it's incredible. I was very fortunate.
Yes.
I served doing the protection party for General Thompson in Afghanistan in 08 and 09, and we did 17,000 kilometers on our LAV because the guy wanted to be around the troops. He wanted the troops to see him out on the road in his LAV, taking the same IED risks, running the same roads that they were running every day, because he had buy-in to the effort that we were engaging in as Task Force Kandahar, but also because he had buy-in to his battle group. He had buy-in to his troops, right down to the private at an outpost on the border. We would run out, and speaking of the drinking and the traditions, we took out the tots of rum for the RCRs. We took out red wine and spaghetti for Pacino Day. We did that stuff because that was buy-in on behalf of or for his troops. That kind of leadership you don't get, and that kind of leadership is not rewarded with chief of defense staff positions, and that's just reality.
I think it comes down to ownership.
He wanted to do his fucking job, and he wanted to do it well.
Yeah.
He actually cared about the job that he was doing, not what's ahead of him potentially down the road. And that's a
he didn't give a shit about checking the box.
I think
we just need leaders
Go ahead, Cole.
step up and take responsibility for their troops.
That's exactly it.
We've lost that. Like we get to the master corporal and the sergeant level, and they're afraid to deal with the younger troops. And they always use the excuses. I don't get their generation, but it has nothing to do with a generation. You need to teach them and mentor them so that they can take your job one day. Like one of the things that I started doing is for my dad or my section, I'd invite them to every one of our holiday dinners. I'd get them to meet my family. I'd meet their family, just so that their wives or girlfriends knew if we were away, they could talk to my wife. If they need a babysitter, my 14-year-old could do it, because we're supposed to be a team. We're a unit, and I would take responsibility for these guys, and I'd want them to know that they could count on me and my family if they needed it. And now you don't see that. You see, like, they're literally terrified of their own troops, like Nate was saying. Like they're afraid of the guys because, we don't connect. I don't understand.
I'm childish as hell. I stuck with my young troops, no problem.
Oh yeah. So if somebody, like, I had one guy start bitching at one of my troops in front of me, and the guy was wrong for bitching at my guy, first off, because my guy didn't do nothing. And I was basically saying, you're talking to my guy all wrong, because you need to talk to me, and then I will sort him out. I own his ass. That is my troop. You got a problem with him, you come to me. My sergeant majors knew that if they had a problem with my troop, they didn't have to say shit to the troop. They come to me, and I went to that troop, because that was my troop. I owned their ass, and those troops knew that if they fucked up, they came and told me first before somebody else came and told me. Mm-hmm. We see other troops, guys with their troops, and they're like, I don't give a fuck who yells at my kids. I'm like, really? You don't care who yells at your guys and who gives them shit? All right.
Yeah.
See, I think
this is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
so. Talking about the whole thing that Cole was saying about like bringing your connecting with their family. So like a bit about me. My old man, he was Navy. He did the first Gulf War in 1990, 91, right? He was on the Athabascan. And so, like, I take a lot of, like, my military traditions from him, from his leadership, right? Because that was the big thing. That's how I learned, right? Was, don't fuck your boys over. Make sure, if, the whole thing of, like, hey, if one guy shows up late and he's hammered, all right, first time, kind of, put him into a locker or something like that, kind of hide him away for a little bit. But,
Fucking Navy.
but that was the thing, though, right? Was like, but the whole thing that Cole said was that, my dad, I knew, like, as I knew everyone else's that he sailed with, their wives and their kids and everything. And then I brought that to, the same thing where, at regiment, I made sure that the guys knew who my kid was and everything else like that. And that was a big thing. And even here at the school, right? Like Christmas last year, I ended up having a couple of the guys over because I wanted to take care of them. Hey, we're not going home because of COVID and all this, gong show. Cool, man. Hey, I'm having Christmas at my place. You're coming over. No, you're coming the fuck over. Right? It was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you didn't come over, I was coming over to come pick your ass up. Even if you were drunk, throwing you in my car, and then bringing you to my place so you can have Christmas dinner. And I think that was the big thing of like the whole camaraderie of, that was what I was taught, and that was what was instilled to me as a tradition of the guys that, Christmas, you were there for the boys. If you weren't there with your family, you were always there. Or hell, one of the guys is like, hey man, like, one of the guys just had he had a baby. Guess what, man? I'm having you're spending Christmas and you're not doing duty for buddy. Right. And that's just how it had to be. Right. And unfortunately, some guys never got that memo. Some guys never got that whole thing. And
Most of them.
Yeah.
One of
sure.
the best leaders I ever met in Petawawa was Moretti, RSM Moretti. That dude, we would show up in Wainwright, and there was a corporal he hadn't seen in 5 years, and he'd be like, "Hey, how's your wife Michelle?" And I later in the lab, I'd be like, "Where the hell do you know him from, sir?" And he'd be like, "I think 5 years ago he was in service battalion," and I'm like, that's leadership. The guy knew his troops from the whole brigade, and it was important to him,
Yeah. I think it's ownership, right? That's what it is. It's all about ownership. And I remember when I first showed up at the regiment and people were talking about, that's what it was. We went to the range, right? And they got issued guns, right? And you're like, oh, cool. Yay, this is going to be my gun forever. And then you find out that that's not actually going to be your gun forever. You're going to be your gun for the range, and you're like, oh, well, shit. Like, I thought that was going to be mine, and that's the thing. Like, it used to be. Back in the day, you get issued a rifle, and it was yours.
It went with you.
Exactly. Went everywhere you went, and that was your rifle anyway. And I don't know how many times I did this. I'm sure you've done it a million times too, Nate, right? You get new troops to your section, you're like, okay, you got the name, service number, rifle number, fucking scope number, fucking NVG number, so on and so forth. 3 weeks later, that guy's not yours anymore. You scratch him out, new guy, fucking do the same thing, right? Oh, that guy got back in your section? Okay. You know what I mean, right? Just like there's always that, nothing is
lack
yours.
Of continuity.
Nothing is yours.
Right? And that's what traditions, we're hoping that some of these traditions are about continuity, right? Like teaching history to your troops, teaching regimental history or unit history, and this is what the unit does on this day, and this is why, and that's continuity. So that when you're gone, Private Bloggins is now a warrant, and he's Warrant Bilbo Bloggins, and he's teaching that to the troops below him now that are coming in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's... sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
You go ahead, Nate.
The one thing that we're actually missing in this topic that comes with leadership, comes with the job, comes with, the struggles and everything, is the passion. tradition inspires passion. Leadership inspires passion. Everyone here in this episode, this show, this environment that we're in right now, this conversation space, has passion. Has passion for the troops, for themselves, for mental health, for all those things that actually quantify a good fucking leader. Okay? There's guys. So I don't know if you guys know this about me, but sometimes I go off. So right now, there was this one guy that when I was a private, I was in recruit school or whatever. So it's raining out. I'm on duty because it's Friday night, and we're in St. Jean or whatever. And I'm sitting there as a brand new private, just got my fucking combats, and I'm all excited. And I'm keen at the front desk, and this fucking warrant officer comes in. He goes, "Okay, here's the keys. Go lock up all the buildings on base." I have never been outside of the fucking building. I am a in basic training private. So I look at him, I'm like, "Okay, Warrant, I'm just going to run upstairs and get my jacket. It's going to take me X amount of time because I got to go up the fucking stairs to the 7th floor or whatever." "No, you don't have time for that. Go do it now." Okay. So, Nate being Nate, dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum, I stumble around in the rain for about 2.5 hours thinking, this is a door, I should check it, I don't know these keys, whatever. And I'm going around the whole fucking facility, St. Jean. I'm probably in places I shouldn't even fucking be in. But I'm super keen, right? I'm 19 years of age. I'm in the Army. They're paying me a paycheck, apparently, and giving me socks and underwear. So I go through and everything because I have passion and fire to be good at what I'm doing. I come in, stopping fucking wet. This was right after the ice storm, by the way, in case anybody remembers that bit of history. Literally the month after the ice storm, that April. So it's still fucked up weather. So I go in and I sit down at the desk, and I'm fucking sopping. There's nobody else there. And this guy in civvies comes in. He goes, "Private, why are you wet?" And I'm like, "Because it's raining." Now, this guy's in civvies. I don't know who the fuck he is, okay? "Because it's raining outside, sir." "Well, you're on duty, and you're sitting here. How long were you in the smoke pit for?" "Oh, I don't smoke." "So what were you doing?" And so I was locking up the doors and blah, blah, blah. As I'm talking, the duty master corporal comes in behind me. And the guy looks at him, and I look over, and the duty master corporal is horrified. Fucking horrified, okay? And he goes, "Yes, sir, that he was told that by the duty warrant to go lock up the doors." This guy in civvies is disgusted. He goes, "Have the duty warrant call me," and walks away. I don't know who the fuck this guy in civvies is. Okay. He's the commandant of the school, apparently, but whatever.
Of course.
Okay. I don't see the warrant. The master corporal says, "Go upstairs, get changed, your duty's done." Oh, okay, off I go. Flash forward 7 years, and I run into this fucking warrant again. Okay? And I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Apparently, he got in some poop for what he did. I don't know. Canadian Forces is small. I didn't think I'd ever run into him again. I don't care. He's holding a grudge. He's slightly in my chain of command at the school. He is now making my life shit. Okay, because he's holding a grudge. He was also a bit of an idiot. So, I didn't know that he was, really messing with my career or anything, but he was trying. He was trying. Anyways, I start coaching this girl in biathlon in the cadet program because I'm racing at the same time and working the city stuff. And this girl's all doing good, and all of a sudden this guy comes to pick her up. Guess who her father is? Okay? So I'm like, whatever, right? You do you, boo. I know you're a piece of shit, but you do you, okay? A couple years later, he's even more direct in my chain of command because I'm back at the school teaching, and he is putting himself in there where he is going to fuck with me. I get down to 2 RCR, he's there as well, and now he's a sergeant major. I told him I was 1 rank away from telling him what I really thought of him. Okay? He decides that now is his time to pay me back for 10 years prior when he fucked up. If you're trying to pay somebody back for your fuck up 10 years later, you're a coward. Okay? So, everybody in the unit knows. Right? Absolutely. Everybody in the unit knows that he's fucking with me.
Absolutely.
I've got other warrants and other sergeants and other master warrant officers that are coming to me going, "Hey, we're going to help you get out of this situation." He's going around saying all this bullshit about me, lying and stuff. I'm like, whatever. I'm injured. My career is done. The major and basic area commander and stuff, they're just like, Nate, you're fucked up. We're going to release you. It's all good. So what I get, I have my only post-traumatic stress moment ever that I've had where I've unleashed hell. Yeah, tonight is just me talking normally, okay? So I'm on Facebook, and I see this picture. This photographer took a picture of him in his uniform at this hockey game or whatever, and he uses this quote from Aliens, any good day above ground, blah, 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 taste the food, blah, blah, blah. That fucking quote that doesn't even fucking belong to him, okay? Make your own shit up. Be inspirational. And they have this quote below it. And I'm sitting there, and I keyboard commanded the fuck out of this. I launched. I said, you are glorifying a fucking clown piece of shit. Like, I didn't swear, but I was like, this guy bullies troops. He gets after them for putting their hands in their pockets to get their car keys out. He stalks them in the parking lot. He does this, and this, and this. This is trash. This is not the kind of soldier you want to be using as an inspiration. I went off. Am I apologetic about the moment? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? It was a pure, this is my post-traumatic stress moment. And I unleashed. And I can see Chris shaking his head at me going, Nate, I thought better of you. But Chris, this was my best moment, apparently. Okay? I launched, and then I left that group. And I just left this thing or whatever.
Flash and run.
No, I was just like, you know what? Screw this. If this is the kind of people that they glorify, I'm out. I'm not interested in your bullshit. I'm out of here. And
Sherry and I
away.
refer to that as 0 to apocalyptic. I go 0 to apocalyptic.
Nice.
In seconds flat.
I like it.
That's also a freebie. That's a freebie. You got to take those every once in a while when they come up.
Well, there's still more to it because me being me, I thought nothing of it. I'm walking away. But dealing with this guy because he so systematically kept poking at me. And then what really pissed me off is that what he was doing to me was affecting my troops. I will stand there all fucking day, and you can threaten me with court martials and shit for your bullshit, which he did. He tried to, and I was like, I will take it. But as soon as you fuck with my troops, no. You do not go after my troops. You go after me. I will deal with it. I'm the man. I'll deal with it. Weeks later, like I said, I'm out at this point. I run into him. I see him at the Costco in Fredericton.
Fucking Costco.
Okay? Right? Him and his little buddy at the time, the two of them, and they're in uniform, are like, oh, fuck yes, come close to me. Come see me. Come talk to me like we're buddies now because you feel powerful, because you're in uniform that I would have killed for to be in. The uniform I am proud of. They locked eyes with me. It was a magical moment. I looked at them across the fucking men's clothing area. As the other ladies were refolding the fucking flannel, I locked eyes with them and I looked them deep into their fucking absent souls. And I says to myself, I says, Nate, breathe slowly. And they looked at me and it was just magical because they both looked at each other and walked the fuck out. And where I'm going with this is that is what a leader is passion.
Yeah.
Okay? Is fire, conviction. I'm willing to stand behind every one of my decisions, and I will never, ever blame my troops for something that I told them to do and they fucked it up.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was me as a leader. And what drives me nuts, right, is when you see these guys that have been in for years and they're only there because that is their only place that they feel some sort of power or influence. Even if it's not the right type, it is their only place where they feel it. And that is what is degradation in its finest to the mental health of those in the first responder world, the military, firefighters, anybody that runs towards danger. The detriment to their health and safety and mental health, the longevity of it, is that piss poor leadership of those that have scurried their way through. And when I hear Chris talk about first responders, one of my programs I do a lot of stuff with multiple groups. I love everybody equally and hate everybody equally. So first responders, being paramedics, have their own type of struggles, but it's very similar. Where shitty leadership and budgets and bullshit will fuck with them. Corrections officers, same thing. Okay? You're in a system that doesn't truly appreciate you and is only there to grind out the next group. And the only thing that we can save ourselves as a group, as individuals and as leaders, is that camaraderie, that tradition, and keeping the fucking fire of passion going. That is the only thing that's going to save us, because nobody else gives a fuck in any other way. But that's it. That's my story.
I'm glad that we were able to get back to the point, because the tangent was going, and I was like, man, should I stop him? Like, I don't know if he's going to come back to the point again. And then eventually he got back to it, which is great. I was going to say,
I got 3 messages from people, so I'm going to shut up.
Nate does the Nijmegen March just to go around the block.
Yeah, exactly, right. Taking 4 days to make
It's entertaining as fuck, though.
Absolutely. He's the storyteller for sure. And I love the fact, I was just thinking, I'm trying to think of names of, like, we could just do a podcast of him on rants, and it could be like Jester's Jargons or something like that, where it would just be great. Anyway, back to traditions is exactly what you're talking about, though, Nate, is that it's actually the degradation of those traditions by the lack of the upkeep, right? Yeah. It's not that the concept isn't being kept up, or the hire's intent is not being maintained. It's just, and I've heard a lot of people say that they, they're just, they're heading to the relish office as like life in the military at this point, right? Is just, that's what they do. They go to work in relish, and they go to the office, and they work in a cubicle, and that's their life. And that's all they do every day.
Young men and women will die for a tradition. If you offer them the right traditions, they will fight and die for it. If you don't, you do it at your own peril as a military, because you will not get the right young men and women in the door.
Yeah. And the right people will leave. That's the one thing I saw within the engineer regiment, right? Like, it was, Grant, what's up? I just saw your hand.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say on the topic of...
Again, I'm afraid of the knife hands. Like, I'm just like, people are starting to... They're coming in here, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Grant.
No, I was just going to say on as far as traditions as well, and what we're talking about, putting ones in and keeping them or whatever. Everybody should have a tradition where everyone gets to suffer kind of all together. Those are the ones that really build the best camaraderie, and like, I know that was a big thing I noticed going from where I was to where I am now. And John and I talked about some of this as well too before, where it's different with the military, because we do all have to suffer to some degree together, whether you're filling 500 sandbags in an afternoon, or you're going for some ridiculous run first thing on Friday morning. Those are the things that really bind everybody together. So regardless of what place you belong to, I think if everyone had something, even just one thing where you do it that kind of promotes that, I think that would go a long way as well.
100% agree. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, like the fun you're embracing the suck. You embrace the suck.
Like, I still remember to this day, one of the most fun PT days was the CO's PT, and we only ever did it the once. I was only ever there for it once, but it was all the different companies, and it was competitive. We all raced each other around a tank track, but like, there were stations that were set up. So at first it was easy, everybody just jog, and then the first station you get to add like 2 jerry cans full of water. So you start passing them around. And then the next one was you get a stretcher, so you throw the jerry cans in a stretcher and you pick up 4 more jerry cans. Then there's a fucking log, so that ties up 6 people at any given time. And like, the shit just kept adding on and on towards the end. It was really hard, but it was really, really fun too. And we kind of all got to laugh and kind of throw darts at each other across the way as well. So I think those types of traditions are very important. They should be included. In any kind of an occupation where there's danger or people deal with dangerous things, that should be in there, because that is the biggest builder of team cohesion and solidarity that I've noticed.
You're 100% right. And, I liken it to what I said right at the beginning. So, like, I'm a big fan of drill, right? And I always enjoyed it. I don't know why. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy watching it.
Bastard.
I really love the...
It's aerobics, man.
Right? And so I was thinking, like, you look at the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, right? The drill is just fucking... Like, it's just great to watch. You look at the Marines doing their silent drill team. Those guys are fucking slick. You look at down in, the 3rd Division down in the States that do their Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, it just like, man, there's some clean, crisp, solid drill. And the thing I love about it is that it really shows how much you give a fuck. That is your gaff factor, right? If your drill is just crisp, you got buy-in, right? Even at a base level. And I remember in basic having multiple people say how much they just hated drill. It was just, oh, it's so boring, and my legs hurt from doing the place the arms down and blah 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 blah. Right when you put the arms on the floor, what is that? I can't remember what that was. Ground arms. There we go. That sucks, but man, if it's done right, it looks great, and you get that nice hard heel slam. I love the sound of it in a drill hall.
Somebody's lucky tonight.
Yeah. I'm going to be watching some YouTube later. Let me tell you. No, but the key part of that is that the tradition of having drill, right? We don't need drill. We really don't. As a military nowadays, it's not really a useful thing, other than the fact of rifle drills and all your basic movements. But parade drill, what's the point, right? What it does is it shows. Sorry,
I think it's still there for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
What's your reason?
What's your reason? Yeah, let's ask that. That's a good question. What do you think the reason is?
I honestly
look at the right though. Love it.
Honestly, I think a big thing with like big parade drill is when it looks sharp, it's a panty dropper. Like the guys that would be wearing like the Scarlets or whatever have you, it's just like it looks good. And then like the guys that did CG a couple years, when I first got to the regiment, guys that did CG, they're like, by the way, like I had like 5 condoms in my pocket at all times, like. Just that was just the, and then you're like, oh, when you're single dude,
you
was they for each other? Is that like these guys?
Sure, you want to go visit with me?
but that was the thing is
you're gonna say, Cole.
Cole, you had something you were gonna add a piece of that or what about drill?
Well, what I'm saying about drill is it's not so much for us anymore, like as a military. But what it's for the civilians, for the public. When they see us moving as a unit sharply, it brings that patriotic pride to them. It shows that their tax-paying dollars aren't just being wasted like the media makes it look like. These guys, we all look good, we're sharp dressed, we snap together. Like my family still loves coming to it. Like my parents will come out to the parades and that because that's what they like to see, like all of us standing there. Yeah, it sucks for us when we're standing on parade for 3 hours waiting for some colonel to give his speech of how wonderful we are, but it brings that pride to the civilians that support us.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was actually going to state that I think it...
Right? When in reality, what you do more often is Uppy sees me down in a goddamn puddle for 6 hours, but they don't want to see that. They don't give a shit. But what they expect to see is you on the parade square doing your drill sharp as a cohesive unit, right?
Yeah.
As Monty Python said, best. We're going to march up and down the parade square all day long. Anybody who doesn't want to be here, you may leave, but we're going to march up and down the parade square all day long.
So my point about this whole thing about drill and at the gaff factor is I think it's a useful tool, and I think it could be utilized more. So Nate, I remember I saw you posted a picture earlier today or yesterday of the hammer on the range, right?
Yeah.
And it really kind of sparked something in my mind about tonight. And I realized is that the one thing we don't do in drill is combat drill, right? And how friggin' epic would it be to be able to watch true combat drill like now, right? You take Canadian forces and you show different stages of you take the guys that fought in Passchendaele, right? The Pickleys get their little white hats on every once in a while and we're gonna fucking walk around with our drums, right? Those guys set them up in a battle line, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, it would be just like watching a martial arts demonstration.
Yes.
Instead we do our unarmed combat stuff, which most people are like, oh yeah, they're stabbing and rolling around in the ground, and they don't really see all the idiosyncrasies and those minute things that are going on. But like you're saying, you know what? I would pay to watch that. I'd pay $20. That's all I got, $20 because I was under the bridge last night. But $20 to watch an actual marching, like a drill combat style of, okay, left, right, arms up and shit, to see that cool shit. You know what? You make it happen. Let's do this.
All right.
Let's make this a pay-per-view. All the donation, all the proceeds of this pay-per-view goes to charities. But I think you've got something there. Like, honestly, I think there's something cool there. I know Toby's going to sign up.
Toby be in. Oh yeah. What, my first thought is like ancient, not ancient. I mean, I guess it would be ancient nowadays. It's over 1,000 years old. I'm thinking about like the 18. Not even. Oh my god, my brain is fucking dying right now.
That sucks.
Like
God.
Zulu,
Watching the Viking wall and stuff, right? Like doing that cool shit.
Yeah. So when the British invaded Afghanistan last time.
Yeah, Zulu. Zulu around that time.
Right, but what are we doing?
Around that time, right? You got the red coats, but you're still using bayonets and you still got rifles and stuff like that, and being able to show the skills that you would actually utilize, right? So how to march, because they used to march in step on the road, and you would march along. You'd have your officer, right? And you could do the bugle call and the drums, and everyone could fucking quarter out, boom. And then they could do their square. Boom. You could fire blank volleys. Like you could play it out and really show the
Being
ability.
an actual starburst and then having the blank fire and the big smoke screen and everything after a starburst breakout from 3 ranks.
Yeah.
Fucking deadly. Like
That'd
I
be
got
wicked.
it right now in a slight chuck just thinking about it.
You always just go to the Halifax Citadel and just go see it there.
I was going to say, you can go to Kingston and see them do it in Kingston.
Right.
This is the thing, and in Alberta, first off, we don't have any of those, and we don't see it very often.
But you got trucks.
I want to see it
freedom.
against other nations.
Ooh, that'd be cool. You could do like engagements against other nations. That'd be fucking cool. I think, okay. Well, we have a business, everyone. We're all a part of this now.
Fuck this karate shit in Cobra Kai. It's all a drill team.
Oh, add it in. That's the thing. You have to, once you're out of ammo, right? You only carry so much.
Okay, but it's a secret, so don't tell
There you
anybody.
go. Yeah, you change, but with a new tradition that's still building on old traditions.
Yes, exactly. Okay,
Promote that.
we're running short on time here. This has been just an absolutely fantastic conversation. I mean, just listening to Nate's rants have been
Totally worth it.
in and of themselves, right? Like, right? But I want to thank each and every one of you guys for being on here. It has been a blast. I've enjoyed every minute of it. We're going to be doing another one next month, and we got a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm going to run down the line, and I want you to give me a promo, what you guys are working on, real quick, and that way we can give each other some props here and there and post things and so on and so forth. And I'm going to do it in the opposite order I did it last time. So, Chris, you're working at a tack shop, right?
Yeah, I'm working at a place called Cash Tactical here in Regina. My main duty is dealing with the different agencies, RCMP, CBSA, corrections. We got into firearms, airsoft, all that kind of good stuff. So,
Right on.
I'm still got my hand in the pot, so to speak, with the community and trying to do my part to make things better.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Can you tell your owners to message me? They haven't talked to me in a month, and they owe me $20.
Were they under the bridge too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're good people. That's a good place to work. I just want to back up Chris's, that Cash Tactical is pretty cool.
Sweet, awesome. I'm gonna take a look at them. I actually haven't heard of them before, so that'll be perfect. Nate, what are you up to?
I'm about 6'1". I'm lying. I'm actually 6'2".
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Right now, I'm working on a few projects, some Viking-themed things, and I've got a new show I'm putting together with the young Marine there. He just retired. We're calling it Tactical Generations, and I'm actually going to be coaching him. Well, I have already started. He's going to be taking part in the tactical games that I used to compete in last year and the year before. So it's about that generation of, since I'm a couple days older than him, Shut up, Toby. So we're going to, it's me coaching him through it and getting through the events and then getting into the tactical world. And that's why Cash Tactical needs to message me. So we talk about the gear, the lifestyle, the different things from when I was in and when my contracting days and stuff now to his time and what things in gear and stuff like that. So we've got that and a couple other projects down the road, but that's just it for now.
Sweet. And then obviously the drill team thing with me on top of that, right?
I'm already marking time in my head.
Okay. Awesome. Grant?
So I got a little bit of a mindset shift with my whole brand coming, starting tomorrow, actually. I'm not going to put a bunch out here because I don't want to ruin that. Definitely my perspectives on a lot of things have changed over the last year, and the next string of stuff is going to be very reflective of that. As well, I think you guys, I don't know, like you guys are getting too ambitious with this drill thing. I'm thinking a bit smaller. Do you know what I want to bring back? You know what I want to bring back? Because I seen this and it pissed me off. And Nate, you're going to know what I'm talking about. Fucking pugil fighting. But these kids nowadays, the amount of protective gear they have on them, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like our shit was taped, so it was harder.
Yeah.
Like you got these kids, they got padded over the hands and padded over the stick. It's like, how are you supposed to cross-check somebody and hurt them with that?
How are you supposed to end up looking like Toby if you're using all that pro?
Can't be this pretty with padding.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'll work on. The drill one's a little bit too much over my head, but I want to fight people with sticks again. That was I never ever forgot that. That was like one of the most awesome days in infantry school ever. Just a fucking dirt pit and a hockey helmet and a stick, and you just beat each other silly with them, and it was a great time.
You know what? We could add that in. We could go back to the Roman Legion and give you like a foam sword and a shield and let you just.
I got a foam sword here. It's just over here. I'll bring mine. And
LARPing.
Oh yeah, we could LARP it up, man. Just make it a big show with different armies. We'd be groovy. Toby, what do you got on the go?
Actually, we're looking at a 40-foot RV and a big diesel truck, and we're talking about traveling around North America and doing a retired veterans traveling roadshow. Just me and the wife and our two ridiculous dogs, and I'm going to do some Instagramming. I'm going to set up a new account with, sort of nomadic veterans account, and we're going to travel around. We're going to talk to as many vets as we can when we're out and about. I'm going to try and link in with Boone Cutler in the States. I'm still trying to get him to come to Canada to do the Spartan Pledge in a few places in Canada, which is a pledge they invented in the U.S. Against self-harm for veterans. That's Boone Cutler. He's a pretty cool dude, former U.S. PSYOPs guy. And that's the latest. Is we're gonna start to try and get out on the road and bring the message mobile about reaching out and talking and making sure that you're speaking up when shit's tough. Right? Life's beautiful even on the worst days. You know. And I'll tell you, Nate, you should see, I did combatives with these U.S. Special Forces instructors. I looked like hamburger after achieving the clenched stay. I got home with my wife. I called her on the way home. I'm like, hey, don't panic. She says, what do you mean? I said, don't panic when I come in. It was bad, dude. It was bad.
That is outstanding. I would have paid to see that.
I'll find the pictures and get them on Insta one day.
Sweet. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the traveling roadshow. That's going to be outstanding. And
that also means we're stopping at all your places, right?
Yeah, man, give it. I'm down, man. I'll take you out to some horses. We'll go for a ride. We'll do whatever.
There we go.
That'd be great. I love it. Cole, what do you got on the go?
Right on. So our podcast is still in the infancy stage, so working on that, get another episode up. We just wrapped up our socket to the winter, where we took donations to drop off wool socks to the homeless shelter here in Comox. It was a huge success for our first one doing it. Other than that, just get ready to do any more peer support stuff. Getting ready.
Sweet. Nick?
So right now I'm just marking time, literally, until the end of March when I say goodbye after 15 years of the Canadian Forces. So it's going to be a little bit of a different mindset for me, but just trying to find a job. I'm actually applied to St. Thomas University for school, so hopefully get into some of that VAC money. I'll go into liberal arts for journalism, be one of those hipsters, and
nice.
fuck up some of those 18, 19-year-olds' brains with the real world.
Well, you already got the beard for it. So,
oh yeah.
Like, the
well, and
hipster-
that's another thing too.
Yeah,
is definitely work on the beer and yeah, like it's just more or less just going to be a different mind shift in the taking off the uniform and trying to readapt into the real world.
It's interesting to say the least. I've been out for almost 10 years now. There are still
hardest thing I ever did,
but it gets easier.
Hardest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
I joined the Army. I went to basic at 32. I went to be a soft support dude at 38. Got blown up at 41. Still, leaving was the hardest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's 65
I look
now,
fucking
so
great.
Yeah.
Well, you still got to. Hey, Toby, you still got to come and see Sheldon. So
We'll be there this summer or in September.
Yeah.
I'll see you then.
don't worry, we'll
Right.
chirping the shit out of him for hockey.
That's awesome.
fucking hockey.
Fucking hockey, man. Jeez.
Gotta
It's always
love
the
hockey.
hockey players, right? Yeah. It's kind of funny because the one tradition that we really talked about throughout this whole thing was the group, the team, the unit, the people, right? What we miss most when we get out is the group, the team, the people, the feeling, the camaraderie. It's everything that, it almost defines us as people. But once you find, Nick, when you get out, you're going to find another passion. You're going to find another thing to keep you going, keep you moving forward. It does. It might take you a little while, but it does happen. And I think it's just great because every single one of us, we all have a passion to help others. And as usually one of the reasons why we all joined in the first place, right? We wanted to help others. I mean, Nate probably just wanted to smash people on the head with stuff.
Still does.
But most of us, it still does, right? I don't think that ever stopped, but most of us, no, but I want to thank you all. You've been fantastic. This has been a great conversation, and I look forward to chatting with you all on the next one.
I watched my life break in a million pieces.
Stay safe, boys.
I stomped it in the ground and watched it grow. My roots are proof that even barren seasons can still be fruitful if you know to sow. I'm harvesting everything I believed in when everyone around me told me no. Don't let the pain you go through be the reason you let go. I'm exposed, I never had closure. I've been told to lay my body down. I've lost it all, but here I stand. What breaks me down makes me a man. I'm exposed, I never